Alright, good day guys. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. And in today's class, we'll be treating calculus on the topic differentiation. And before we commence, I would like to explain what differentiation is all about. This is simply, or this has to do with the change of a variable with respect to the change of another variable. And let's assume a variable y, which is expressed as a function of what? A function of x. So the change in y, which is the y, over the change in x will be equal to f prime of x. So this is simply what differentiation is all about. We have just to do with two different variables, the y, which is the dependent variable, and the x, which is what? Independent variable. Many people will be wondering what is a dependent variable and what is an independent variable. And let's assume we have a case where you have y is equal to 2x. Now, if you look at this equation carefully, you will see that if x is equal to 1, y will be equal to what? 2 times 1, which will be equal to what? 2. If x is equal to 2, y will be equal to what? 2 times 2, which is equal to what? 4. So in other words, it simply means that this y is influenced or changes. It changes whenever this x changes. Do you understand? So dependent variable like depends or is altered, or is determined by the value of the independent variable. You understand? So this is what it simply means. Why this x does not change because of y? It's just on its own. But y is solely dependent on what value you give to the x. That's what this is all about. So let's quickly go over to the method used in solving differentiation. Now, power rule or general differential method. We have product 2, we have the chain rule, we have quotient rule, we have the implicit differentiation method, and we have this one, differentiation from first principle. Differentiation. Right, so these are the 6 methods used basically to solve differentiation. And because of this class, I'll explain all of them step by step. I'll explain the step-by-step method of solving each of them. And also, I'll show you guys tricks to getting your answers without much calculation. Just stay tuned as I start from this first one, which is the power law. So this is the first method, general method of differentiation or the power rule. This one in particular guides other ones. So without having the knowledge of this, you can find it difficult solving the other ones. Let's begin with this as a basic. So let's assume you have a function y equals to f of x. Yeah. And this function, let's say it's equal to x raised to the power 3. Now, what does this method say? Simply saying that if we have a variable raised to the power of anything, let's assume this is an unknown, we get. So the method is saying bring the power down, multiply it with the variable, then remove 1 from the power. This is what the first method is talking about. So let's say I'm asked to differentiate this function, because for me, y is equal to f of x, and this f of x is this x cubed. You understand? Like I said, this is the formula. This is called, this is the variable, right? This is what? The index or the power. Or you can say degree also. So it's not like saying anytime you're given any variable to differentiate, bring down the power, multiply it with the variable, then subtract 1 from the what? From the power. So let's say I'm asked to differentiate this. So I would say dy over dx equal to, from here, bring down this power, which is this 3. Bring down 3, multiply it with the what? Variable, which is x, right? X. Then minus 1 from the 3. So with 3 minus what? 1. So therefore, 3 times x is what? 3x. 3 minus 1 is what? Squared. Therefore, dy over dx equal to 3x squared. You understand? So this is what this method is talking about. So let's take another example quickly. Let's see. Even let's say y equals 4x cubed plus x, say plus, let's say 5x minus 4. Alright, so now this is another question. So to go about this, it's still the same method. Here, to differentiate only this one, bring down the what? To differentiate only 4x raised to the power 3. Bring down the power, which is still the 3. Multiply it with everything down, which is the 4x, right? So this is 4 times x, right? So minus 1 from the 3. So I have 3 minus 1 plus, now this is x. Some students will be asking, what is the power? What is the power? So that any variable on its own has the power of what? Of 1. You understand? So to differentiate x here, bring down 1, multiply it with what? The x. Then subtract 1 from the power. That's 1 minus what? 1. You understand? Plus, this is 5x now. And 5x is nothing as saying what? 5x raised to the power 1. So in other words, bring down the 1 to 1, multiply it with the 5 and the x, then remove 1 from the power. So 1 minus what? 1. So minus, if anytime you are getting a constant, the answer is what? 0. So this is how it's gotten. This is how it's gotten. Know that a constant does not have a variable attached, and differentiation is mainly has to do with variables, right? So now let's assume we have the function. Let's say we don't know the function. Let's say c. You get. So this is the function. We have to differentiate this function. So now this function c. If I say c times, before you differentiate, it must have a variable attached. You get. I know that x raised to the power of 0 is 1, right? X raised to the power of 0 is 1. So this is not than saying c times 1 is equal to c, right? So let's assume this, we are actually taking the function. I want to tell you y is 0. So this times is something as this. So like the rule says, bring down the words 0. I'm having 0 times c times what? X, right? Then subtract 1 from the power, so 0 minus 1. So 0 times c times x. Anything multiplied by 0 is what? 0. Automatically, everything here will be 0. So this applies to all constants, either 100, as long as it's a number. The sign does not affect it, whether it's plus or minus, it still give you what? 0. So this will be v minus 1 minus z. So to proceed, 3 times 4 is what? 12. 12 times x is 12x. 3 minus 2 is what? 3 minus 1, 2. Plus 1 times x is what? X. 1 minus 1 is what? 0. Plus 5 times, okay, 1 times 5 is 5. 5 times x is what? 5x. Then 1 minus 1 is what? 0. Then this one will be out. So now this will give you what? 12 is x raised to the power 0 is 1, right? So this is 1 plus what? X raised to the power 0 is 1. 1 times 5 will give you what? 5. So therefore, dy over dx is equal to 12x squared plus what? 6. The first